Nick Caserio prances around Radio Row. Nick Caserio leaves clues. Plus, the key to CJ Stroud's success and the breakout star for the Texans in 2026. I'm going to tell you who. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localized, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for.
I always get a kick out of Nick Caserio. I enjoy interacting with him at the press conferences for better or worse, whether you're grilling him, whether you're asking him a question and you're having to find the croutons in the word salad, or whether he's on with Sean and Seth, as he was today over at Sports Radio 610, Pain and Pendergast. Cacerio, I guess they'd recorded it and he was on with them. He was on with them technically today. I guess it was the first time that we had heard it. By the way, listen to myself and Sean Pendergast along with Cody Stoots and Reginald Attitude on the Texans Collective every Monday at 6. And shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring the video. But I enjoy listening to the GM talk. Even when I don't, I do. Like, I don't listen to the Texans radio ones because I just don't. I love Mark and John, but I just don't listen to those because I don't think I'm going to get anything unless there's something I specifically want to hear. I don't listen to those, but I enjoy hearing the GM speak. And today was an interesting opportunity because not only did he have the interview with Sean and Seth on Sports Radio 610, but he also went on in Boston, the #1 radio station in the nation, 98.5, the Sports Hub. He was on with Felger and Maz. Those guys are badass, man. It's good listening to like some old school, just good radio. I almost wanted to listen to more after I listened to that interview. But he was on with them. And then he was on with Mike Florio, who, by the way, I gotta talk about Mike Florio in a sec. I'm not someone I think Mike Florio is a very, very, very awesome resource. I think he's entertaining. I like him. I think he is a shameful individual though, where there's no line in the sand with how far he'll go, just to fire stuff up. I think it's a little bit shameful, but for someone who acts the way he did to handle Nick Caserio the way he did, I think it's hilarious. I think it's actually like just it's funny. But I don't take him as serious as a lot of people do. So I guess it shouldn't have been too shocking, but even for him, I thought this was a little bit strange. And someone I know that he knows that you may know kind of thought he kind of made a fool of himself as well when he had old Nick on. But I enjoy Nick Caserio making the rounds. And I thought today he actually dropped some clues, which I want to touch on. A lot of them, they kind of fit some of the stuff that we've been talking about as the offseason continues / approaches. It'll officially be the offseason on Sunday at about 10 o'clock. But a lot of stuff that Nick Caserio said, they actually kind of align with some of the stuff that I've been saying that I anticipate that I think maybe we can see in the future. They align with that. So I want to start with Sean and Seth, and I would put the link up to the interview. They don't, for some reason, 610 does not. They don't like single out the interview, so it's kind of hard to get. I guess if you have the Odyssey app and you go to Pain and Pendergast, you can do it. But as far as like digital, they don't really do that. But I would put the link up, but it's not important to them, so I guess it won't be important to me. But I will tell you, it was on Sports Radio 610. It was with Sean Pendergast. It was with Seth Payne. So there was a couple of nugs that I got there. I call them croutons because we get through the salad that I think we can take, we can discuss in the chat. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to you people. I do mean you people. And we can kind of break down like what we've been talking about, whether this aligns or not, and we can see if it holds true or whatever. Here we go. So the first hint that I got was when he was talking about the offensive line. This kind of confirmed what we think. He only mentioned 3 offensive linemen by name. He only mentioned 3 offensive linemen by name. One was, and he mentioned 3 offensive linemen under contract by name. One was Ariante Ursary, who he said has a lot to improve. I think that's kind of the tough love element. The other one was Titus Howard. Praised his versatility. Didn't necessarily say what position he thought Titus Howard was going to be, but he praised his versatility. And he mentioned Jake Andrews. And the most interesting one here is Jake Andrews. It's obvious through the actions that they've shown that I think they might be okay with Jake Andrews as a starting center. Now, I think this is a dangerous thought. And Jake Andrews is my guy. Jake Andrews is accountable. Jake Andrews likes me and Cody. We have a good dynamic with Jake Andrews, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm confident that Jake Andrews is going to end up being a really good NFL center. I would be doing a disservice to you. I would be doing a disservice to anyone that wants to watch this show and at least think that there's an ounce of credibility if I sat here and said I'm 100% confident that Jake Andrews can be a good center. We talked to him about his performance last year. I thought it was average at times, and I thought it was bad at other times. We can maybe cherry pick and say, there's a good moment here, there, whatever. Some moments were better than others, but I thought for the most part, if you get the same center play next year that you got this year from Jake Andrews, then you're not giving your offensive line much of a chance to really take that next step. And for that reason, I would be open to the possibility, if it presented itself, of maybe upgrading at the center position. Now, the problem that I see, and I don't know whether it's a problem or not, it's kind of TBD, is I think they think Jake Andrews is a NFL quality starting center. And he has the history of Popovich. He knows the system. He's a good communicator. He's a little bit banged up last year. First time he got extensive playing time in the NFL. So there are reasons to maybe minimize or explain the quality of play, but it feels like they feel like they have a quality center, and it's TBD. I'm not completely out on it. There are some things that I'm completely out on, one of which we got a hint from in a surprising spot in a second. I think this will be a pleasant surprise, but it's very obvious based on actions and words, not just words, because you got to take those with a grain of salt. I think it's obvious based on actions and words that obviously Ursary is going to be back. Obviously Titus Howard is going to be back, but I think they think that the best is ahead for Jake Andrews and that they're big fans of what he brings to the table. So that was Cacerio Clue 1, courtesy of the interview with Sean and Seth on Sports Radio 610. Shout out to Street Runner Society 713. Appreciate you for hopping in, my friend. We'll get to some of the comments a little bit later on. But yeah, that's clue number 1 with the Texans is the 3 offensive linemen we anticipate that they will be there. Nick Caserio, those were the 3 he mentioned by name. He did say they got a decision to make with Ed Ingram, but you couldn't really read that. That was just typical Cacerio poker face. Join SNL, myself and Cody Stoots, the 20th. We'll be at Spanky, Sharpstown, the 20th for the NFL Combine SNL send-off. We'll be going to be there for a week from Monday to Friday at the NFL Combine. Spanky's is helping send us there. And they're going to help send us off on Friday with the best happy hour in town, the best bar food in town, some of my favorite pizza, and some of my favorite cold beer. The beer selection there is fantastic. The prices are great. The specials make the prices even better. Tuesday pasta, $6.50. You cannot beat. Pasta's kind of the go-to for me as I become more of a vet. So hang out with us. We'll give you some prizes. We'll talk draft. That's going to be on the 20th of February. All right. So the next clue that I got from Nick Caserio, I think this is a good one. So we know this. They love them some working out at the facility talk. DeMeco loves it. Cacerio loves it. It's almost like high school-y how much they love the guys working out at the facility bit. And they mentioned 3 guys by name working out at the facility. Actually, they mentioned 4. We'll get to the 4th in a sec. But the 3 guys that they mentioned that are younger players are Junior Tafuna, Tommy Togiai, and Jalen Knoll. Jalen Knoll is a guy who needs to take the next step. And Jalen Knoll is a guy that I anticipate will take the next step. But there are 3 guys that they mentioned. Tafuna, I could easily see him being, I don't know that he's going to be the next Togiai, but I think he will have a bigger impact next year as a reserve DT. And Togiai, obviously, we've seen him just emerge as one of the best players on the one of the best defenses in the league. We've seen that. But the Jalen Knoll thing is interesting. And I snowball this into Cacerio clue 3. I think they anticipate Jalen Knoll is going to be a big part of plans. Now, you no longer have
Captain Kirk has arrived. I repeat, Captain Kirk has arrived.
You no longer have Christian Kirk in the way. And you have a guy that when Nick Caserio was talking, he talked about the wide receivers. He mentioned 2 guys as being in their own category. He mentioned Nico Collins and he mentioned Jalen Knoll. He talked about Xavier Hutchinson's improvement. He talked about Higgins needing to improve some things. But he mentioned Nico Collins. He mentioned Jalen Knoll as guys who were kind of in their own category for the wide receiver room. And this was after he'd already mentioned Knoll working out. And I put this up on SNL, which you can listen to on Spotify and watch live on YouTube Monday through Friday, 4:00 with myself and Cody Stoots. But this was Knoll at Iowa State and just kind of the improvement. And the interesting thing here, you don't have to dive too much into the numbers, but every single stat from receptions, yards per catch, TDs went up from one year to the next. Every single year. It went up. And the biggest jump was the 1 year where he had the same quarterback in consecutive years. There were times last year that Nolan and CJ Stroud actually appeared to have some decent chemistry. And I think that there's something to build on there, and I think he's a big part of the plans. You don't have Christian Kirk in the way. Maybe there's some sort of growing pains. You didn't draft the guy out of need. You drafted him as kind of a luxury pick, and I think they have big plans for Knoll. He's strong. He's fast. He's quick. I think he's capable of making plays. I think that Jalen Knoll is someone who's going to have a big year next year. And I think he's almost like the make or break for CJ Stroud. Like if Jalen Knoll does what I think he's capable of and what I think they think that he's capable of, it's a completely new element. It's someone that CJ can trust in the slot. He didn't really have that last year. Quite frankly, Christian Kirk's one of the most disappointing signings of the entire Nick Caserio era. He's actually probably, I think, the worst acquisition for that money, that maybe even going back to the Easterby BOB era. Eric Murray, like the contract was weird. He at least established himself as a better player as time went on. And you could at least see some sort of value. Outside of the lipstick on the pig that is the 144-yard game against the Steelers, Christian Kirk sucked all year. He was terrible. And it makes it worse because he was in the way of a guy who was capable of making plays. That's not going to be the case anymore. Christian Kirk is gone. And now you have a guy in Jalen Noel who Nick Caserio seems to like. I think a lot of y'all like, who adds an element and a much needed element of speed. So I think that Jalen Noel is gonna be a big factor. People are asking bigger than Tank. Yeah, obviously bigger than Tank. Tank Dell just kind of is a plug-in best case scenario. We don't know if Tank's going to be able to play. He hasn't been cleared. They said that he wanted to play last year. He hasn't been cleared. But yes, obviously Jalen Noel has a bigger role. He's the slot guy. He's a lot faster. And his best ball is kind of ahead of him. Tank Dell goes out there and stretches, then cool. If Tank Dell helps in any way, shape, or form, cool. But yes, Jalen Noel over Tank Dell. It's not close. And I think he's one of the difference makers. So yes, Jalen Noel, I think, is going to be a big factor. That's the next Cacerio clue. Cacerio clue 4. Dalton Schultz is rehabbing. That contract was interesting. So essentially, when they signed Dalton Schultz 3 years ago, it was 3 franchise tags. It was basically the price of what one franchise tag would have been. It was basically times 3. And the first 2 years were guaranteed. The last year, they could easily get out of. They've kind of pushed that around a little bit. Consolidation, whatever the hell you want to call it. And now I think they might just run it back at that price and essentially franchise tag Dalton Schultz. I think it would be a mistake to make it more than a 1-year thing, but I could see them bringing back Dalton Schultz. I still think you need to upgrade behind and around Dalton Schultz in the tight end room if you do bring him back. But Nick Caserio, he's making it seem like they're going to bring back Dalton Schultz because he's rehabbing. And I don't think you're rehabbing if you're not planning on being here. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Dalton Schultz situation. I think there's a chance that he's back. Clue 5. I could see an extension for Azeez Al-Shire. There's a lot of love for Azeez Al-Shire. Nick Caserio talked about his leadership. He's the heart and soul. He called him the heart and soul. And he said, you also got to play well for that to happen. He talked about his value with DeMeco Ryans. I could see an Azeez Al-Shire extension happening this offseason. I might bet on it if I were a betting man. Now, what does that look like? Maybe a couple extra years, few extra years. But I think Azeez Al-Shire, of all the guys that could potentially get an extension, I could easily see Azeez Al-Shire being that guy that gets the extension 100%. And I think you could do crazier things than that. I still would be open to bringing in linebacker depth, but the way Cacerio speaks, the way DeMeco speaks, really the way he's played kind of warrants it. I could easily see that.
Swarm.
And if I were Azeez, I'm not like encouraging a holdout, but if I were Azeez, I would consider if necessary. Just from the player's POV, I could understand it. Always try to understand the players and the organization's POV. I could easily see that. Street Runner Society says, I just fear Cacerio is going to overthink it. That's always a danger. Nick Caserio is a big thinker. But yeah, that could easily a possibility. That's always a possibility. Cacerio clue 6. Little Rod Wright love. Little Rod Wright love from him. He actually gave Rod Wright the credit. He gave him a lot of credit for the development of the D lineman. He talked about how he was asked about how guys, and this was still 6'10", he was asked about how guys are able to come off the street and produce immediately. And he gave Rod Wright credit, rightfully so. If you watch the way they practice, you watch the way they develop, Rod Wright seems to be a big part of things. I actually wonder. I was asking the question, like, will DeMeco Ryans have to go Sean Payton? We might be getting ahead of ourselves, but Sean Payton, he had to be an asshole this offseason. He had to be an asshole because he has a very, very highly sought after guy on his staff by the name of Davis Webb, former Texas Tech quarterback, Giants draft pick. And the rule is, like, if another team offers you like a promotion by title, then you can take the job and they can speak to you. Well, the offensive coordinator on Sean Payton's staff was a guy by the name of Joe Lombardi, who Sean Payton had a long history with. You go back to New Orleans, on and off relationship where they worked together for quite a while. And that was the offensive coordinator. Now, we all know that usually Sean Payton's going to be the one calling the plays. But Sean Payton fired Lombardi, and he elevated Davis Webb to offensive coordinator because he didn't want to lose him. I like Matt Burke. I think Matt Burke's fine. I think he's doing a good job calling the defense, and DeMeco's letting him and all that. But what if you're going to lose Rod Wright? What if eventually you're going to lose Rod Wright? You're going to lose the guy that's overseeing the D-line, which is kind of the pulse of this whole thing. And Matt Burke's not going to get a better job. Like, will DeMeco Ryans have to go Sean Payton at one point? I don't know. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. I don't think it's going to happen this offseason. Although Dino Vasso, he might get the Arizona Cardinals defensive coordinator job if that happens. But I actually thought this was a smart move by Sean Payton. And I would hate to see Rod Wright gone for nothing. So we've talked about Rod Wright being a big part of things. It feels like Nick Caserio believes it as well. I just wonder how much longer it is before that you end up losing that. But that was all the questions from the 610 portion of Nick Caserio's Radio Row runarounds. Next, the final one was on 98.5 The Sports Hub. And I thought this was interesting. I actually really enjoyed the interview. It's probably my favorite interview of the three. But he was asked to break down the game, and he highlighted one play. He didn't highlight any of CJ's plays. He basically highlighted the half of that. But he mentioned Cade Stover's drop and how significant it was. And you know how I feel about that. I think running it back with Cade Stover as the unchallenged TE2, I think it would quite frankly be incompetence. I think it would be incompetence. If some, awesome offseason happens and Cade Stover develops into being an awesome TE2, awesome. Good for him. I'm not buying that. And I think they need to, in the draft, free agency, whatever it is, I think Cade Stover needs to damn near be competing for a roster spot at this point. It was kind of a project pick to begin with. I don't need to go on this rant. We've talked about availability. We talk about being good at least one thing. We've talked about this a lot. And I thought it was good to hear Nick Caserio kind of highlight the drop in the red zone when they were down 11 points or 8 points, I think. Yeah, when they were down 8 as being a costly play. And quite frankly, a play. I don't say this loosely. Quite frankly, a play that I think half the people in the chat, half the people watching this probably could have made. I don't say that about a lot of things. That was Mickey Mouse stuff right there. And it basically halted momentum. Although they were able to kick the 50-yarder, it halted momentum. I thought it was good to hear Nick Caserio say that. And they've got to improve their tight end depth. You bringing back Schultz is one thing, but bring in someone with some upside. Like, you don't think it would be nice to have like a Harold Fannin like the Browns have right now? You know why the Browns are comfortable letting David Njoku go? Because they drafted Harold Fannin last year. That's why. You know why the Texans aren't comfortable letting Dalton Schultz go? Because they drafted Cade Stover 2 years ago and he's their TE2. That's really the difference in it. That's the difference in where the Texans are right now and where they're sitting. They've got to change that. They've 100% got to change that. It's not a well, if he ends up being a good TE2, cool. Right now, he's not even a good TE3. It should be like, is he going to be active, healthy, based on what he currently is? Again, what's true today may not be true tomorrow. But I just thought it was good to see that Nick Caserio acknowledged what most of us saw, that was not great. That was not great. So thank you. Get a tight end. I don't care if it's Sadiq in the first round. I don't care if it's a guy on day 2. I don't care if it's a free agent. I would love for it to be both. Cade Stover, TE2. No, thank you. Damn sure not this version. He should be battling to make the team next year. Period, point blank, end of story. That was music to my ears from Nick Caserio. That was on 98.5 Sports Hub. Now, they do put up their interviews. It's very easy to see. If you go there, they'll have it single time stamped, all that. It's beautiful. So the Cacerio clues again, and I'll get to Florio in a second. I'm gonna get to Florio in a second. My goodness, that was crazy. But Cacerio clue 1, 3 offensive linemen mentioned by name: Andrews, Titus, and Ursery. So the Andrews thing, we'll see how that looks, but it does feel like they feel confident in him as a starting center, for better or worse. Noel Togiai Tafuna working out. Noel, breakout season. I think it's coming next year. No more Kirk in the way. Schultz rehabbing. Probably going to be back. Again, when you have Cade Stover as TE2, you don't feel too comfortable letting Dalton Schultz go. It's the opposite of what they got in Cleveland. Aziz Love / extension. I think we could see an Aziz Al-Shire extension. Now, will Alpha Aaron get it?
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron
I
here.
don't know, man. I'm going to bet on Rap. I'm going to bet on Rap or Shefty. I want Aaron to go get it. I know he tries to be real buddy with Aziz. We need you to get this one, Aaron. We're rooting for you.
Hey, bro. Alpha Aaron here.
Don't let the national guys take. We need the locals to step up. Get them, Aaron. Cacerio clue 6, Rod Wright Love. Cacerio clue 7, the costly tight end play, Cade Stover. Music to my ears. I'm glad he realizes how big of a play that was. But that was the play, right? Like, CJ's bad play sucked. Trying to do too much, all that, blah, blah, blah. It was bad. We've talked about it a hell of a lot. But not being able to catch a ball like that, I mean, that was embarrassing, especially when you'd already cut the lead down to 8, had all that room. That was bad. That was really, really bad. So those were the first 2 interviews that Cacerio had made. We'll talk about the most shameful of them all. My God, I'm at a loss for words of this. I'm not, but it's actually really fascinating though.
Swarm.
Trucker Cam says, ever tried to get that Watt jersey signed? JJ sent me this jersey himself, and it is signed. You think I would just frame a JJ Watt jersey? Come on, brother. JJ sent that to me when he left town, and it is signed. Come on, brother. I would never get an autograph from a player in the media. I haven't gotten an autograph in since I've been in media, but yeah, it's signed. It's not in like a pen. Let me see. But yeah, it's signed. Yeah, it's. Would I try to get it signed? That would be a weird move by if I did do that. But no, yeah, it's signed. He sent it to me and then I got it framed. He sent it to a couple of people that were in media, but it was when I was at the radio station. JJ signed it. So no, I wouldn't. I would never get a player who I covered's autograph myself, but he sent it. He sent a few jerseys. JJ is a thoughtful guy. JJ actually reached out to me when I left 610. Very nice of him. But yeah, he's a good dude. here's what it says. Hold up. What up? There it is right here. Yeah, it's right there. Landry, thanks for all the laughs. And surprises or something. Oh, and support JJ Watt, hashtag a loyal loophole. So in the loop, we used to call the listeners loopholes. So yeah, that was the JJ. That's what the JJ thing is. So yeah, I wouldn't. That it just kind of meant a lot to me, and reached out all that. So yeah, that's what that is. Why would you buy? I could see James doing this. And by the way, James, don't ever listen to him when he talks about a transaction. He's talking about $20. This is a man who loses $100 bets and then goes missing. Why would you buy an autograph made out to someone else that someone sent? That's crazy, brother. That's a weird thought by you. I believe it, but I know you ain't good for the 20, so I don't like that. But yeah, that's what that was. So Cacerio then made the rounds to the national media type, and it was Mike Florio, good old bad Mike Florio, and I was actually quite flabbergasted by. I was quite flabbergasted by this because there was one reason that I watched the Mike Florio thing in the interview. And it was because I assumed, and I like Mike Florio. I'm not one of these people who just says F Mike Florio. I think he's one of the best aggregators of news. I think he's entertaining. I think he puts out a lot of information. He obviously works his ass off. He is kind of at an identity crisis where he acts like he wants to have integrity, but he also has no integrity when it comes to how far he'll go to generate traffic. I think his show's actually pretty entertaining when him and Chris Sims talk. So I'm not one of those people who says F Mike Florio. Quite frankly, Mike Florio does a good job of driving my brain a lot of times in the direction when it comes to the preparation process, when it comes to getting ready for things. And I was actually kind of excited that Mike Florio was going to interview Nick Caserio, because I hear Mike Florio talk. I see a lot of the stuff that he says. And when he throws the Texans thing up there, you'll go check it out just to see what he's saying. But he's got so much to say about the Joe Mixon situation and how bizarre it is. And why aren't any media asking about the Joe Mixon thing? Although Cacerio did get asked about it when his availability was there. He has availability twice a year. He was asked about it both times. And then I watched the Mike Florio interview, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, Florio is going to at least, like, maybe not, you're not going to like press him too hard. Like, I don't know that Mike Florio cares enough about it. And I mean, it is, you do have a guest, so you want to have a certain amount of respect, but the Mixon thing didn't even come up. Didn't even come up. And I thought it would have been interesting for the hard ass. Let me see what this text message said that I talked to about someone who knows Florio. And again, I'm a fan. I like what he does. Let's see the word. Florio, quote, Florio is the guy who rips media for not asking tough questions. What a pussy. I would agree. And I was actually quite surprised by it. Sometimes I feel like I'm on an island with some of this grillage. But how does Mike Florio not ask about it? It's Mike Florio. He's been bitching about this for a while. I mean, just even in passing, what's going on with it? Now, the conspiracy theorist in me wonders, like, was there like an agreement to not ask about it? Is he going to have like some sort of report as like a trade? Did they let him know, hey, we're pretty much done with them and blah, blah, blah? I don't know. But how does the hard ass Mike Florio not ask about Mixon? I'm done with Joe Mixon. I know he's not playing for the Texans again. Like, as soon as the season ended, we've talked about it. Joe Mixon's not playing for the Texans again. We said in training camp we didn't anticipate him really playing in season, but I'm kind of done with it. I don't think I ever crossed paths with Joe Mixon again. But I was shocked that Mike Florio didn't ask about it. I was actually surprised. Like it's not like the end of the world, oh my God, whatever. But I thought it was crazy that he didn't ask about it. Of all guys. Don't get it. Don't get it. Someone's asking who's Mike Florio. It's at Pro Football Talk. At Pro Football Talk. So that'll make more sense because his Twitter's at Pro Football Talk. Pro Football Talk. I know you follow it on Twitter. It has all the news. So he's the one on Pro Football Talk. You probably don't watch him. So I should have been more clear. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. A lot of people know, a lot of people don't. But yeah, Pro Football Talk. Surprised. Thought he would be the guy that would do it. Arthur on the chat asked an interesting question. Would the Marks fumble be up there with the Stover drop? Not really, because look, it was costly. Like the overall cost of it was such to where, yeah, like you can make a case that it was maybe more painful that it happened and did it, but that was just him trying to make a play. And sometimes fumbles are going to happen. Nico Collins had a fumble against the Jags that cost him a game. Dare Ogunbowale, don't mean to put them all in the same category, but sometimes fumbles are going to happen. And Woody Marks had just had a hell of a game against Pittsburgh. He'd had a hell of a season. Quite frankly, he was being asked to do too much, but that was just effort. And sometimes that shit happens. The drop by Kate Stover was just like a play that most Pee Wee football players make. And it was pretty much the same type of result, same type of thing. But yeah, as far as the overall cost, yes. My frustration level with it, not really. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say Woody Marks sucks now because of that. I think he just ran out of gas and he was trying to do too much. So it sucked, but I don't put it in the same category as Cade Stover, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that. When it comes to that, but it was good to hear Cacerio. Not a big fan of the Cade Stover play. Not a big fan. Are y'all buying the 2026 season of Knoll? Are we buying the Jalen Knoll breakout season? I think this is a good thing. That last year was pretty high on Christian Harris. The guy died. It doesn't exist. The player that Christian Harris was, and that was the main sales pitch. That guy that we saw in 2023, he would be so good on this defense. Remember Christian Harris in 2023? If that guy still existed, he would be on the football field. He must not. He must not exist. Either they think he's too slow, either they don't think he's disciplined enough. Whatever it is, he doesn't exist. Because if he did, he would be on the football field. I don't care how good Henry Toto is playing. If that Christian Harris existed, he would have been on the field. Apparently, he just didn't come back the way that they had hoped. So I lost all my penny stock. I think Knoll, though, pretty confident in this. I think Knoll's going to be nice. Looking forward to him. It's Knoll season. Better believe in that. I wanted to look at the NFL honors. So the NFL honors, we're going to localize those in a sec. First, though, Let's give a sleeper pick. Those of you in the chat who haven't played sleeper, go ahead and play it. They have it for basketball, football, all of it. And right now, if you use the promo code Locker, you get $20 free. If you don't even want to spend a penny, you get $20 free. Download the sleeper app, use it as your scoring app. You get $20 free on me. You just got to use the promo code Locker, $20. Now, if you want to put some more money in, then on top of that, you put in 20, you'll get 20 back, up to 100. You put in 100, you get 100. But right now, use the promo code Locker, and you get to play for free. And I'm going to provide you with my $20 pick this week in the Super Bowl. It's very simple concept. The game is greater than, less than. And this is where we're going. 4-1 right there. So that $20 can turn into 80. So you will have a free $80 if this hits. I feel pretty good about this one. Although I felt good about some and they don't hit. But I'm going with no touchdown for Stevenson. No touchdown for you. Not against the Seattle defense. One catch for Travion Henderson. Come on, one catch. Yes. And then Anthony Barner. We saw Dalton Schultz with the 40-plus yard reception. Barner, 25.5, more than 25.5. That's 4-1 right there. It looks good, doesn't it? I don't have any money. You don't need money. You download the sleeper app. You use the promo code Locker. You get a free $20. You put that $20 on this. It turns to 80. All of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, real money, DFS, and you got the best scoring app in the game. First-time users take advantage. If you already have the sleeper app, you got to admit that one looks good. You might want to put that one in. That one looks good. I'll be on. Y'all got to admit, on the surface, that one looks good. Shout out to the sleeper app for doing what they do. The best in the game. Back to the chat.
Swarm.
One Mortal 2. You believe the season's about to be over? And I know it's been over, but like the NFL season is kind of crazy. One Mortal 2 on the chat. Think any change to QB coach? Bring in Schaub. So we've gone from Kubiak to Schaub now. So we're just throwing the former Texans. Bring in Matt Schaub to work with the QB. Matt Schaub is currently a football analyst. Like, does he qualify? Now, he's actually played in the NFL and been on an active roster. I think that is valuable when it comes to a QB coach because QB coaches are hands-on. Gerard Johnson never was on an active roster. He had like a lot of like few week stints and off-season stints on practice squads and went through the elevator program and has been the Texans QB coach. What do you just think Matt Schaub, because he played quarterback, would be good? I don't know. Like, I don't know if he's a good coach or not. I mean, I think Case Keenum would be. I think Case Keenum will eventually get into coaching, and I wouldn't mind him starting his coaching career here. I would be fine with him as a QB coach immediately, given the fact that he's been a backup, which is essentially a QB coach. I think that's valuable experience, being an actual backup, not like, practice squad and stuff, but like, and I don't think you have to be a NFL player, former quarterback to be a quarterback coach, but I do think it's being a backup quarterback, like in the form of like a Case Keenum or a Chase Daniel or Kevin O'Connor, like those guys are essentially extra coaches. But yeah, I don't know if Schaub would be, I don't know if Schaub would be good or not. I understand the frustration with the quarterback coach. I 100% do. I don't see how there would not be. Like, if you feel like the quarterback hasn't progressed in the last couple of years, which I think would be a fair thought, and you've changed the offensive coordinator, and you've changed the offensive line coach. And it seems like all around the league, when positions aren't progressing, we talked about tight ends. You just fired your tight end coach. I mean, I think it would be fair to question the QB coach. But I don't necessarily know about Matt Schaub. I've been intrigued by the Case Keenum possibility, but I don't know about Matt Schaub. So, yeah, and the Rhino's got the jokes. I knew this one was coming. He said, nah, CJ already knows how to throw interceptions. Gosh, we're just so harsh around here. The funniest comment I saw on the CJ haircut was someone said, like, oh, he's got to be able to run faster when he throws the pick sixes to make the tackle. So, yeah, I knew that was coming. St. Louis Rebel, shout out to you, mi amigo. The man with the plan.
Swarm
Says Collins, Higgins, and Knoll should be the starters. How would you handle Tank Dell's playing time? How would you fit him in? I don't know that he fits in. I think it's cool that he's even trying to come back. He wasn't his old self outside of the Kansas City game in year 2 after coming back from the injury. I think Hutchinson's a better player right now. I think in a perfect scenario, Tank Dell is a guy who can still make a play here and there, and he's a situational WR5/WR6. I think anything more would be phenomenal. Anything less would still be phenomenal. Just the fact that we're even talking about Tank Dell participate is impressive. But as far as Tank Dell's role, I don't really have a role carved out for him. I think it's kind of outlandish that so many people seem to think you're going to get 2023 Tank Dell when we didn't see 2023 Tank Dell in 2024 outside of the Kansas City game, really. Maybe the Jets game on Halloween, but yeah, so that would be where I was at. I think Hutchinson's up there too. And if he continues to get better, that would be a 4th year of getting better. But shout out to you, St. Louis Rebel. God, I could use some HUD-X right now. They're big at steak and shake folk up there in St. Louis. They used to be. Is Steak and Shake still big up there in St. Louis? STL Rebel. My stepdad was from St. Louis, diehard St. Louis sports fan. Rest in peace. But he was always all about Steak and Shake. I don't know. The Steak and Shake fries are a little bit too thin, though. Burgers are thin too. I don't hate it. I feel like with my age now, as far as quality, I feel like I might appreciate Steak and Shake a little bit. I don't really see it around here. I think they have one in Indianapolis. I might eat some Steak and Shake at the Combine. By the way, before the Combine, the 20th, if you haven't heard, we'll be at Spanky's. Hope to see you there. James, tip the waitress. Quit being cheap. You know, James likes to skip out on $100. Tip the waitress, man. Quit going there and just drinking water. Slime ball. But yeah, okay, yeah. So it's still pretty big down there, St. Louis Rebel says. So yeah, they're still big Steak and Shake folks. Enzo P says Hutch is not better than Tank right now. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Did you watch Tank Dell in 2024? Did you watch Tank Dell in 2024? And now he has the injury? Yes, Hutch is better. I think he is. I'll say he is. But I mean, are you one of those guys who thinks that Tank Dell's like going to come back and be WR2? I hate to always have to do this because I'm a big Tank Dell fan, but it's just so like the history is just so rewritten on what we saw from it. Like it was an in the moment type of thing. But the 98 yards against Kansas City, that got him above 600. Up to that point, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In 13 games, he had just over 500 yards. So do you even think you get that back? If you get that back, that's cool. That is probably better than Xavier Hutchinson. But you also got to factor in that he was putting up these stats, and these were games where Tank Dell was. They lost Stephon Diggs, they lost Nico Collins for a full month, and Tank Dell was putting up these types of numbers. So, like, I do think Xavier Hutchinson is better than Tank Dell right now. 100%. I don't think that's an LOL. I think that's a maybe you need to go back and look, be a little bit more in the moment. James actually said something smart. A lot of those rose-colored glasses when it comes to Tank Dell, they don't remember. They don't remember. They just don't remember. Like 3 catches for 40 yards, 1 catch for -3, 5 for 62 against Minnesota. Buffalo 4 for 38. Keep in mind, after the Buffalo game, Nico Collins goes down. So you have Tank Dell here. He has the 1 good game against the Jets, but in the 3 games immediately after, Nico Collins goes down. So Tank Dell is on the field, and you need him to step up. 7 for 57, a 0 catch game against Green Bay. And then 4 for 35. And then we go down here. There's no Stephon Diggs either. Nico's back. No Stephon Diggs. So Stephon Diggs isn't in the way. 5 for 39, 4 for 54, 3 for 72, 1 for 23, 2 for 26, and then he has the KC game. What am I missing? What am I missing? Be fair to the guy. Be fair to the guy. I like Tank Dell, but be fair to him. Don't expect him to come back and be a WR2. Tank Dell is awesome. I'm rooting for him. Again, if you're rooting against Tank Dell, you're going to hell on scholarship. You're going to hell on scholarship. But if you're putting unfair expectations on him, you're going to hell as a walk-on. You're going to hell as a walk-on if you're putting unrealistic expectations for Tank Dell. There you go. Brandon's on it too. He says saying Hutch is better than Tank Dell is like saying Woody Marks is better than Mixon. I don't know if I hate this comparison. Let me think about this. I don't want to be immediately dismissive of Brandon. Brandon has some good points every once in a while. So you're saying that because Joe Mixon got hurt, and now saying that because Tank is hurt, Hutch is better is the same thing. My pushback on this, Brandon, would be we saw Tank Dell before, and he wasn't as good as he was before. Like, we don't really have an example. Like, the last time we watched Joe Mixon play, he was fucking awesome. So it's not like I just saw him get injured once and then I just completely dismissed it. We saw Tank Dell have season-ending injury in 2023, blocking in the end zone. We saw him come back. He didn't look like himself. He didn't produce very much, despite the fact Nico Collins missed a month. Stephon Diggs went out for the season. We didn't see that. And then the first time we saw the glimpse was Kansas City, and he's had not one, but two, not one, not two, 3, like big injuries all at once. And now I'm saying this. And while that was going on, I saw Xavier Hutchinson get better. So I get what you're saying. I don't agree with that. Is that a fair assessment? Is that a fair assessment? And Nick Caserio even said that Tank Dell's not as fast as he was before. And he was never really known for his speed. And the other thing is that we're 2 for 2 on Tank Dell when it comes to season-ending injuries. We're 2 for 2 on the injuries. So, look, hopefully you're right. Hopefully Tank Dell's great. At least I'm being fair, though. At least I'm in the right ballpark. Like, I'm comparing him to Xavier Hutchinson. Y'all are like comparing him to like Jalen Noel and Higgins and stuff. I think that's messed up. That's more messed up to me. I'm saying, okay, Xavier Hutchinson. That's more of the ballpark. We're talking wide receiver 4 and 5. That's where we're at with Tank Dell. Y'all are sitting there acting like it's, oh yeah, he and CJ Stroud are gonna squabble. It's gonna be ready. The squabble's coming back. Y'all are the assholes in this one, not me. Y'all are the assholes. And again, nobody's rooting against Tank Dell. If you root against Tank Dell, you're going to hell on scholarship. Y'all are the assholes, though. Y'all are the assholes for expecting him to come back and be WR2 after everything he's been through and everything we saw in 2023. I think that's messed up. I think that's messed up. And now you are crapping on Xavier Hutchinson, a guy who's just improved. I don't think Xavier Hutchinson's like a wide receiver too. Tank Dell's not either. So let's get that right. Like, quit hanging your hat on 2023. If you're gonna say Tank Dell's awesome, just say CJ Stroud's an MVP candidate, and we're good. We're good. We're good. Because that's the last time that he was awesome. Let's just say that then. How crazy does that sound? Seriously, if I came on here right now and I said, all right, here, let's just start the show. Let's start the show all over. And I'm just gonna do what some of y'all are doing right now. Here we go.
We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways.
Hey, welcome to the locker room. CJ Stroud, the NFL honors just went down, and I gotta tell you, CJ Stroud did not finish top 5 in MVP voting, and I think that's a disgrace. Because I think CJ Stroud deserves to be MVP. It sounds stupid, right? That's how silly some of you sound saying that Tank Dell is a quality number 2 wide receiver. Because that's the last time that happened. That's the last time that happened. We just got to slap ourselves. It's a good story. It's a good enough story if Tank Dell goes out there and stretches. If Tank Dell just goes out there and stretches, if Tank Dell just goes out there and plays football, if Tank Dell makes the team, if Tank Dell has a catch, if Tank Dell does anything on this team, it's a good thing. But wide receiver 2, what are you saying that for? Do you respect the science of what he's been through? Do you not realize how long ago 2023 is? It's crazy. Be fair to Tank. Be fair to Tank. Not being fair of him. You're not being fair to him with this silliness. You're being crazy. Patty says Dell will bring a lot of enthusiasm for the team. He'll renew our faith. Houston Texans through and through. He was doing that this year. Like he was they love having Tank Dell around. He was around the whole time. If he can't play though, like how much more can you do? Like, in what position are you putting yourself in? I know that you have to make a lot of tough decisions. You have to have a lot of tough conversations. But let's say Tank Dell's wide receiver 5. Let's say Tank Dell's wide receiver 5 or 6. If he's 4 and he's better than Hutch, good for him. That would be great. And then he probably won't have to worry about this. But let's just look at this way. So Tank Dell is on the final year of his contract. He's on the final year of his rookie contract. So you don't have long-term investment in Tank Dell. Typically, when it comes to a wide receiver 5 or a wide receiver 6, you want them to be able to play special teams. You have a punt returner / kick returner in Jalen Noel. So Tank Dell's not going to do that. He's damn sure not going to cover kicks. So what if you have a guy that is competing with Tank Dell and the guy plays special teams, the guy doesn't have an injury history, and he provides more roster flexibility? What do? You gotta have the tough conversation, right? And maybe Tank still gets to hang around. Maybe there's some sort of world where Tank Dell if he performs, he performs. But I'm just throwing out this hypothetical scenario. How do you handle it? But he's already around the squad. If you're relying on Tank Dell to bring faith and positive influence, he already did that last year. We got to see what he can do and if he can play. He's not ready yet. I assume that he'll be ready for camp. But that's the question. That's the question. I don't think Kenny really understands what Tank Dell's injury was. You might just need to go do some research, sir. Diggs just had a big injury and was wide receiver 1 in New England. You're going to tell us Tank can't be wide receiver 2. Tank had a season-ending injury in 2023. In 2024, he was not performing like a wide receiver 2. Then in 2024, when he played well, I shouldn't have to explain this to someone like that is in this room. You should have some sort of idea. He had an injury. He tore multiple ligaments and his bone went through his knee. Like I shouldn't have to explain that. I shouldn't have to explain that. I'm gonna have to put you in timeout, Kenny. I appreciate you coming through. Just go look it up a little bit. You can figure it out. We'll see what happens with Tank. It's just good to see that he's walking and he's doing his thing. I just think people are being unrealistic. You're comparing a traditional torn ACL to what Tank went through. Brandon, I think even you can admit that's probably the worst comparison. That might be the worst comparison I've ever heard, honestly. You're comparing a traditional ACL to what the injury Tank went through last year? Whew. I don't even have an analogy for that, brother. I don't even have an analogy for that, brother. Now this is a real, of all the Tank Dell what ifs. So we have a few what ifs. Brandon, you're cooking today. Brandon's cooking with grease. Okay, so you have the Tank Dell versus Xavier Hutchinson battle, which we can hear out. Can Tank Dell outperform Xavier Hutchinson? I don't think so. I don't think so. I would take Xavier Hutchinson in that, but okay. Then we have the back end of the wide receiver room conversation that we've had when it comes to flexibility and stuff like that. Now, Brandon throws this one. This is just an a-hole thing by him. What if the spot comes down to Tank Dell and Jared Wayne, the man who dove into his leg? Dude, come on, Brandon. The sad thing is it might even be who he's competing with. What if Tank Dell is competing with Jared Wayne? That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. Street Runner Society, since we're throwing out the hypothetical schools, it's a contract year. Players work hard in contract years. That's true. Tank Dell's working harder than anyone right now. Just to be able to walk, Tank Dell had to work harder than anyone. Yeah, that injury was rough. I can't believe someone compared Tank Dell's injury to Stephon Diggs' torn ACL. That was kind of crazy, dude. Look at what Stephon Diggs is doing. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so NFL honors. Let's localize those. Let's localize the NFL honors. Let's see if there's anything that we can do when it comes to the local outlook. So Matthew Stafford's the MVP. I think he beat Drake May by 1 vote, if I'm not mistaken. I think they got this. I think this could have gone either way. I don't think there's like any massive controversy when it comes to it. Offensive player of the year, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Well deserved. Defensive player of the year, was there any doubt? I said this was going to be unanimous. It was. Myles Garrett. Offensive rookie of the year, Ted McMillan. Remember the video that me and Stoots dug up of him talking about not watching film or football? Yeah, he did his thing. Defensive rookie of the year, Carson S. No surprise. Coach of the year, Mike Vrabel. That could have gone a number of ways, but I don't think you can really dispute that. Assistant of the year, Josh McDaniels. Can't really dispute that. Comeback player of the year, Christian McCaffrey. Fair. Joe Tunney, good for him. And then Walter Payton, man of the year, Bobby Wagner. So there we go. Man. If we're localizing this. So from the MVP perspective, Matthew Stafford got it started against the Texans week 1. Didn't really have to go too crazy, but he did his thing. Offensive player of the year, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Texans got that work. DeMeco Ryans got ticked. Didn't shadow him with Derek Stingley. Acted like a weirdo when asked about the game plan. Then his answer got relayed to Stingley by me. Just simply said what DeMeco's answer was. If he would have just answered it normally, it wouldn't have been as weird. But he got that work. Myles Garrett. Will Anderson, they said, was up for Defensive Player of the Year. We knew Garrett was going to get it. Ted McMillan, really no ties to the Texans, although it is the first time that Bryce Young, who was selected before CJ Stroud, actually had like a receiver to throw to. So Ted McMillan. The Vrabel thing, interesting. He was in the division not too long ago. He does his thing. McDaniels, Patriot way gone right. Got to say that. Texans have copied the Patriot way a number of ways. They got Nick Caserio. That's this system gone right. Say what you want about Josh McDaniels. Nick. Some bitch can call some plays. And it's not just Brady. He did his thing with Mac Jones as well. McCaffrey, it's kind of a case when you make a running back, when you make a trade for a running back and you invest like they did, they're kind of getting scrutinized. It's kept San Francisco relevant. They wouldn't be relevant without the RB. Invest in the RB. Joe Tunney, good job by the Bears. The Bears, they invest in the offensive line, and unlike CJ Stroud with the investments that the Texans made on the offensive line, the way too high Titus Howard extension and the Shaq Mason contract, they invested on the O-line. It paid off immediately, and Caleb Williams took the next step. So those are your localized POV NFL honors. The other controversy that I got, God, Mike, this is funny. Comparing Diggs to Tank is like comparing a paper cut to a machete to the chest. Yes, comparing those injuries is wild. That's actually really wild. Jonathan Foster says Trevor Lawrence should have won Comeback Player of the Year. I don't understand Comeback Player of the Year because I guess if you just have an injury, you're there, or if you're improved, I don't know. It feels like it's almost become like a balance between injuries and then most improved, like in the NBA. So yeah, Trevor Lawrence, sure. I mean, I'm not going to push back too hard on that. Christian McCaffrey, I mean, okay. I don't know. I've never really understood that whole thing. I don't really get it. I don't have a big take on it. So the controversy from today, and it wouldn't be an award show without controversy. So I guess Matthew Stafford won by 1 vote and Justin Herbert got a vote. Now, I love Check the Mic. I don't know if Sam Monson really has a vote or not, but he said this. And maybe he does. Be fine. He says, I was the Justin Herbert vote. The guy had the worst offensive line in the NFL season. Despite that, he was working miracles in almost every game. Stafford's offensive line became 2/5 as bad as Herbert's. for 5 minutes and he became a turnover howitzer. He embodied value. Says MVP is the single hardest award to correctly determine because the focus is on value, which is basically impossible to objectively evaluate with so many dependencies. But the idea that one vote altered a guy's legacy is stupid. More people than not thought each candidate did not deserve to win MVP this year, according to the votes. There was not one clear MVP who was robbed of the award. Most people were torn between two deserving candidates. I thought a third deserved it as well because he brought the value. So maybe Sam really does have an MVP vote. I think he would deserve it. I don't think there's too many people that follow the league closer than Sam. I think Sam and Steve do an awesome freaking job when it comes to the work. He might just be being trite, but he did lay out a good case for Herbert. I know Herbert's kind of a polarizing guy. I thought Herbert had a good year. Did he deserve MVP vote? Fuck no. Like absolutely not. I think that's asinine. That's cool that he put the lawyer hat on there and said that. It's a good case, but do I think that Herbert deserved an MVP vote? No. I do think though that the Herbert and Stroud connection is a straw man. I keep hearing that. Like, why does Justin Herbert get killed? And CJ Stroud doesn't. That was like the big Texans Twitter. We watched the games, dude. Like, I know Justin Herbert threw a lot of interceptions against the Texans 2 playoff games ago, but if you watch the game, like he was clearly getting his ass kicked by DeMeco's defense. Like it was as much of a defensive clinic by DeMeco Ryans as anything. CJ Stroud just choked. Like CJ Stroud was just seeing ghosts, and it wasn't a one-off. Like you can make a case that Justin Herbert was a one-off. Like that was the worst game that he played, and it was against DeMeco, who kicks everybody's ass. Look at Aaron Rodgers' stats and look at Joe Flacco's stats in the divisional round. So if you actually watch the game, it was a little bit different than what we saw from CJ in Pittsburgh and then in New England. Furthermore, when CJ Stroud had a bad offensive line, and we were talking about Bobby Slowick in 2024.
Damn it, Bobby.
Nobody was killing CJ Stroud after that. Like CJ Stroud, it was looked at as he needs a new system. They need to figure this out. The offensive line coach sucks, all that. The only time CJ Stroud got killed was after those consecutive performances, one of which he said he played good. Justin Herbert, they ended up losing to New England. He played better than CJ Stroud did against the common opponent, and they had 26 line combinations for the Chargers. They lost 2 of the best tackles in the league, one of which never played a game this season, the other of which played, I think, 6 or 8 games this season. And they actually traded for Austin Deculus, and Austin Deculus was like a savior. So I don't, the Herbert and Stroud connect is kind of like an extreme straw man. Like if you go on X or you go on Twitter, you can find someone saying something and then you push it. But I think comparing Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud, I think is crazy. CJ Stroud didn't start getting killed till he put together the worst 2-game display that I've seen in playoff history in consecutive games. He wasn't getting killed before that. Like he was being talked about kind of the same way that Justin Herbert is. So I think like the notion that there's some sort of like, similarities or whatever, I think it's crazy. Like if CJ Stroud had 26 line combinations and got beat up like that, we would be having the same thing. But CJ Stroud never got criticized last year, ever. He got sacked 53 times. We talked about that. We talked about the O-line coach. The only time CJ Stroud started getting killed was 2 of the worst playoff performances that we've seen. So that's a weird, like, imaginary argument that you can maybe find on the internet and convince yourself of. But I don't think that exists. But with all that said, MVP, no, that's asinine for Herbert to get an MVP vote. Good case laid out. I understand. And I like Sam, but I don't know. Sam's kind of having a rough week though. He kind of bit the hook on that maternity story about the Vikings firing their GM. He took a maternity leave and they were pissed. No, they were pissed that he passed on Sam Darnold. Like if you listen to Aaron Jones and you listen to Jefferson today, they made the rounds. They called him out. That's the fireable offense he had. And then he told Diana Rossini about the maternity, and all of a sudden other people started biting that hook. So it's been a rough week for Sam. Can't win them all. We all have differing opinions. That's the beauty of it. But yeah, I don't agree with that, but I don't see like the connect. That's always the connect like Herbert and Stroud. I think it's a weird, I think it's actually a Mickey Mouse comparison to make, especially if you watched the actual games of Justin Herbert's performance in the divisional round last year and watch what CJ said. I don't think it's the same. So there we go. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. If you don't have the Sleeper, download the Sleeper app. Again, we're going Barner, greater than receiving yards. Travion Henderson with a catch and no touchdown for Stevenson. Free $20. Use that promo code Locker. Promise you won't regret it. Do me a solid. Go ahead and roll with it. And then 4-1, we're talking $80. Dollar bills, y'all. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. What a time to be alive. See y'all at Spanky's February 20th. I always like when someone comes up to me and tells me something stupid I said at Spanky's. I really love it. It's actually one of my favorite things, meeting people and talking about this type of stuff. So we'll see you at Spanky's on the 20th. We'll see you on SNL Manana, 4:00, Locker Room Stream, 10:30. Happy Super Bowl weekend to all. It is a celebration of America's game. It's going to be lovely to be able to celebrate that. And then it's full off-season mode. Be at the Combine at the end of the month. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. I love you all. Bye-bye.
If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localized, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.